Guys, I'm sick of re-recording this video, so this is going to be unchopped and unedited like it usually is, but for some reason I can't get it right today. Maybe we're going to be all over the place. Maybe we are going to be sloppy. The SPY was down 2.7% on Friday, and that is because of some drama going on between the US and China. Crypto also saw its market record largest single liquidation event ever in history. People got absurd limit fill orders on altcoins, bonk him all the way down to 5042 or somewhere around that region. XRP came all the way sub $1.40, I believe, losing over 60 billion in market cap. And what the hell is going on? Is it that bad? We're also seeing something very similar to what happened in August of 2024, and we'll talk about it. But basically, the US and China have been going at it to slow down each other's infrastructure in AI. Basically, AI is crazy development, it's future development, and these countries are fighting to be number one. The US has been trying to limit China's access to advanced semiconductor technology, AI, and other strategic tech for what they call quote unquote national security reasons. Obviously, they have to give a quote unquote reason for this because the US needs to stay in power. Very simply, China doesn't like that, and this is what happened. The US tried to blacklist China on certain companies, basically stopping China from getting advanced chips, advanced technology, and China being very rich in these minerals that it takes to build these ships, build electric vehicles, build etc., 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 comes out and said, all right, well, we will put a tariff or a ban on the export of these minerals that we have. And Trump didn't like that. Trump didn't like the backfire that China gave, and obviously he didn't like that. That's going to be very bad for the US if that ends up being the case and they don't work things out. Now, they had a meeting where they were going to meet up and negotiate, but as of right now, that meeting got canceled and the market freaked out because this is kind of some big news with these countries headbutting each other. So after the US blacklisted some China from some companies, China put port fees on US ships and export bans on rare earths and battery metals. And then Trump came out and said that he's going to put a 130% tariff on China. I believe it lowered to 100%, but don't quote me on that. Either way, it's absurd, on November 1st. So the markets are not liking what is going on. But then you have JPY coming into the mix. USD JPY ended up tanking, falling off a cliff which points toward the carry trade unwind. JPYX currency index, you can see, reverse hard on Friday, as well as Bank of Japan is likely to continue to tighten their policy. Now, what does this all mean for GameStop? Well, if I come and I show you the correlation to the chart for GameStop and the JPYX, which we've covered several times, you can see that every single time this begins to have volatility or moves higher, GameStop ends up having these crazy melt ups. One of them was back in May, in which case obviously Roaring Kitty amplified May of 2024. Then you had this move in July of 2024, move in December, and then this move, and now all of a sudden, after GameStop selling off, filling a gap down to 2360 or so, and people are still panicking. It's also testing a key level, which we talked about on the chart. Also has a lot more that we can talk about. But the point being is that this is going to, once it turns around, likely cause short squeezes. Not financial advice. I'm not a financial advisor. And that is not only on these small cap stocks, but that's including crypto. That's including the SPY. Why? Because let's take a look at how this actually breaks down. I'll cover it very quickly before I talk about what the SPY is likely going to do, how long this is going to last. The yen is funding currency for massive global leverage. And when it strengthens, which is what happened on Friday, those trades start breaking. So funds borrow yen at near zero interest. They convert it to USD and buy higher yielding assets like stocks, bonds, and swaps, etc. The profit depends on the yen staying weak, but Bank of Japan policy, obviously, like we just said, is continuing to tighten and JPY is continuing to strengthen. So the borrowed money becomes more expensive to repay, so collateral values fall and then leverage ratios blow out. So what does that mean? That means funds are basically forced to sell risk assets like we are seeing and buy back yen like we are seeing. And that's why you saw the divergence in the markets on Friday. So when that unwind starts, there's two things that happen. Liquidity ends up draining and everything risk on dips, which we saw check one. Now, that is not necessarily over. After that, funding costs spike, swaps and synthetic short positions get stressed, in which case triggers short squeezes on AMC, GameStop, so on and so on, right? Hedge funds cut exposure or even cover their shorts to meet margin calls. So temporarily, very short term, bearish for the markets, kind of bearish for these squeeze plays, but less bearish because it's just putting pressure on swaps. So it's the same thing like we have, like what happened in not necessarily 2021, but August of 2024. But 2021's chart and technicals will look the same with the market dumping, and then before it begins to rebound, right? Before it begins to rebound, these meme plays begin to squeeze, and then things slowly start to, fix themselves in the market, and then they slowly start to build back higher. It's going to look the same in my opinion, and we're in the very beginning of it. So how long is this going to last? In my opinion, likely based on everything that's going to happen, you're seeing a minimum of between 1 to 2 weeks, which comes out to Friday, October 24th, or so. A minimum of 2 weeks, and just like back in August of 2024, I think this could be larger, but if not, around a 6 to 10% correction. Now, I do believe SPY will fill this gap at 640, or at least come down to 648, which we are very close to, and that doesn't require a lot more sell pressure. Following that, I think it's likely that if this drama continues coming into Monday, in which case crypto saw some very, very big liquidations, the SPY could come down to 607 and 600. Keep in mind, you can't call out or pretend to assume you know what's going to happen between Trump and President Xi. So assuming that they are going to continue to beef because that is a trajectory, these are the levels that we are giving. Yes, I'm saying, in other words, if they come out and they say something where they agree on something, tariffs are removed and this ban is removed, and they agree on something, then stocks will likely end up flying again. And even then, things will turn around and short squeeze likely, right? All the technicals will line up with the news catalyst. But overall, watch the market to continue to bleed. If we end up bleeding down to these levels, that would bring the SPY, sorry, that's date range, that would bring the SPY down about 9.9% or almost 11%, which would also fill a couple gaps on the chart. Can we go lower? Sure, we can go lower. We will evaluate from there. You will see videos from me, of course. We saw back in April, how far down was this? This was about a 21%, right? Yeah, 21.5% drop. If the SPY saw something similar to that, which I don't believe is the case this time around, we would come all the way down and fill this gap all the way down to 530 on the chart. But right now, we're not going to be that bearish, but we will be evaluating from here. I think a healthy correction is 6%. At least 6 to 10% is a healthy correction, in which case 6% would bring us down to about 633 or 632.40, which would also have another gap fill. We have these tiny gaps, but ultimately a 10% would be more healthy, seeing how heavy things have ran. Now, guys, I wouldn't be too worried about all of this. What I would say, or what I'm doing, nothing I say is financial advice, I'm not a financial advisor, is cash is on the sidelines, and that reversal is likely to come. And that is basically the best way to play this, in my opinion. People got some crazy wick fills on crypto, and I'm a little bit jealous that I didn't have these ready and prepped. Is that to say that there won't be more bearish moves? No, that's not to say that, but the likelihood of these moves coming under these lows is very unlikely, in my opinion, because of how low they drop. I think a lot of institutions or funds or some big players got liquidated, but some people also got such crazy buy orders, and that's why you've seen these things get bought up. Again, a little bit jealous about that. If you guys got those wick fills, let me know in the comments down below. But overall, very hyped, very excited. This is more of a fun time than the slow, gradual climb we've seen in the SPY. On the weekly time frame, we've also said the SPY is way too overbought. We've been talking about it. Every time it's come to this level, it has seen drastic rejections, like we saw back here with about an 11% rejection, and then like we saw right here Obviously, 2022, the market sold off longer, but the initial sell off was about 12%, and then it continued to fall. As far as where we are now, the SPY is only down about 3.5% from its peak, indicating that we have more room down. Now, on the weekly time frame as well, if you remove all the drawings, we're not seeing any significant buy orders until 624, which is around that 6 to 8% correction territory. You have minimal buy orders on the daily time frame, but likely with the sell pressure we've seen on Friday, all of these will get broken. We are testing basically the 50 on the daily, in which case I do believe we will get under, which is under 652.50, obviously. There's no sign of this slowing down. There was no lower wick on this candle. Okay, there was no lower wick on this candle, meaning buyers were not quick to buy up the market here. Plus, the volume was absurdly high. We haven't seen this volume since the low in April of this year when the markets dropped 21%. So this candle was way too significant, in my opinion, to see a green candle Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday of next week. If anything, I see another big red candle happening on the weekly time frame. So bearish bias coming into the week. Overall, hopefully you guys enjoyed watching or found value out of the video. Make sure to like the video on your way out, subscribe to the channel, turn post notifications on. Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. Who is in the wrong between President Trump and President Xi? Are either of them in the wrong? And where do you think this will go? How do you think it will affect GameStop? Do you think I'm spot on here, or do you have another opinion? We have 2 links in the description. One is for my Discord server. If you're not in, make sure to join. We made money on APLD calls as well as SPY puts that we were in before this news actually came out. Obviously, you can't expect it, but the technicals showed us that the SPY was still due for a rejection. Obviously, it was still very, very risky. As far as coming into next week, I have a hedge. I have calls and puts on the SPY, but likely those calls are going to be booted out. Make profits on those puts. I believe the calls are a bit further out, so I'll see what I will do with those. But as always, I will let Discord know. Make sure to join. Top link in the description. Second link in the description is for my custom indicator. If you don't have that yet, you can get it for 7 days for free. Add it to your TradingView charts. Guys, we also have tons of AI alerts in the Discord, so you will not regret joining. It will pay for itself. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. I love you all. God bless. Lottery stocks out.